and you need to talk to Owen just outside the blacksmith at the right time to get the hammer. And you can't do that on the same day you get the fishing rod. Mining is magical melody mining, except the hoe isn't required because hammering rocks in the mine gives you a staircase downstairs, so that's awesome. So is the fact that there's lots of floors where there's a mushroom to eat out in the open. A guy told me that eating over 15 mushrooms at once causes drowsiness now, because every mushroom gives you fatigue points. So because you're not warned about that, that's unacceptable. But it'll never happen because that's a huge number. Mushrooms should have restored more stamina. At least in this game in the mines, the items don't shrink at all when you uncover them until you put them down. Why does the game even waste time having poison mushrooms there as well? Something arbitrary about the mine is that the ores never stack in your bag. To be fair, mining gets boring after a while. And the steam geyser pits that send you upwards again with no indication that they weren't pitfalls beforehand really don't help. They feel like fake difficulty. But at least they have the geyser effect to make it look believable that they can do that. While dark rooms are way more likely to have them, it always feels unfair when you get a geyser on a floor that isn't dark. Of course, abusing save states gives you an advantage over that. But it's not like there's a huge difference between what you'll get on one floor and what you'll get on another floor. When you have the gold hammer, you end up thankful that ores don't stack and your starting rucksack doesn't have many slots, because it means you have a good excuse to leave the mine that isn't just, I feel like going to bed before 2 AM because I'm worried my character will be tired and move slower the next day otherwise. When actually, there's no penalty for waiting until 5 AM to sleep. It's not as strict about the sleepiness as in Magical Melody. Sleeping at 2 AM only means you wake up with only most of your stamina restored. As usual, it's always aggravating that not every rock has an ore in it. But it's so exaggerated in this game that you could use up all of the very small amount of stamina you have, and only end up with 1 silver ore near the start of the game. I was better off foraging. I just didn't feel like it because the overworld is too big with the forageables being too sparsely placed. Well, the mines surround you with rocks that could give you stuff. Because of how much money you'll make from it, you want to get the gold hammer early because that barely uses any stamina. It sucks that you have to put away the tool every time you want to pick up an item. This is why Magical Melody had the tool be on the X button. When you go to the upstairs staircase, you can choose to move up just 1 floor, and that's the default option, which protects you from accidentally exiting the mine. But it's still annoying merely going up a floor because you mash A too much. But when you go up a floor, you're always right next to the staircase anyways. I wouldn't choose the wrong option by mistake if a different button exited the mine. None of the gases have the decency to be the same color as in the last game they were in. Returning from Magical Melody are the gas that reduces your path of sight to a tiny circle, and the gas that changes your controls so that you're usually facing diagonally and could miss the rocks. It takes so long to wear off that you usually change floors beforehand. What is new is, there's also gas that removes some of your stamina. That's not so bad unless you barely have any. The problem is it adds up. But it can't be that big of a deal because I actually forgot it was in this game. At least in Magical Melody you could amuse yourself by spinning in place while paralyzed. But in this game your character has this embarrassing looking animation where she stands there and moves her arms and legs in place, when she's supposed to be paralyzed. So that makes me even more impatient for the paralysis to end. The gas that slows you down is unbearable. So it's the fact that the shipping bin has a limited amount of slots in this game, because ores fill it up. Eventually I realized that each floor of the mines has a unique layout that keeps being familiar. It rewards skill because your experience with the mine can help you get through it faster. I hate it when the floors are dark, that's never good to program. But only a few specific later floors before level 10 are like that. But every gas that hits you immobilizes you for a bit. I hate that there's floors without rocks for you. Moles leave a trail I can follow at least, for this game only. Occasionally killing moles gives you a puntata root, but it barely restores stamina. Usually you just get a poison mushroom for your wasted stamina. So the moles seem like a waste of development time when a puntata route would have been better to program. The guide told me molds can give you medicine, but that should have been far more likely. How did they get body geysers? The best thing about mining in this game is that you can charge up and hit more rocks than one, and the game never tells you this, so you could take forever to find out about it. Refined ores and gems ship for more than the ores in Magical Melody, but I'd rather the ores themselves ship for that amount, and not have to take a few seconds to refine them the next morning. I wish this game told me right away that the blacksmith doesn't keep your tool for days to upgrade it this time, as well as told me I could raise the shipping value of ores by refining some there. Then I would have been using it all along instead of paying more money for tools that use less stamina from the general store. You have no way of knowing before you go into the blacksmith shop for the first time that things were changed, and that you have to meet Mira at the graveyard to unlock refining. So I didn't enter it until the fall of the first playthrough. They make it more realistic by requiring you to get ores and wonderfuls refined first to make them more valuable or capable of upgrading tools, or making wearable accessories. This feels arbitrary because no other game before this required that. Why can't I just get gems instead of wonderfuls? Which gem you get from a wonderful depends on the amount of stars it has, apparently. And you can only get metal from sparkling ores, when most ores you get don't do that. What also feels arbitrary is having only the ores and wonderful stones that sparkle be refinable. I thought that was so stupid. Also, it shoots realism in the face by having them magically sparkle to indicate that. When it's sparkling, it won't tell you anything without a guide clarifying it. All you'd think is that the sparkling ones ship for more, and it's random which ones get refined. While it saves time that talking to Mira as all the stuff in your rucksack get refined, it certainly doesn't save time if not all of it is refinable. Then that means I have to put the non-refinable stuff in the shipping bin first. I also hate that she has a different message for everything she refines. Every time you're done mining, it's so late that you usually won't be able to enter the blacksmiths to refine the ores. And there's only so much space in the toolbox for them, because you can't stack them. It's great that when you charge up the maximum amount, the flash of light that appears is red, because it's easy to lose track of how many yellow flashes happen and tire out when not paying attention. Yeah, it sucks that if you try to charge up too long, you stop charging and lose stamina. It was better than Magical Melody. Each level of charging up the tool made for a different visual indicator on your character. It made it instantly obvious what effect you'd get if you release the tool button. It's lame to have to count the flashes of light. But it's great that when charging a tool, you can see its area of effect. It's the lack of that feature that made using the best watering can in Magical Melody unnecessarily frustrating. But even the max watering area of effect is nothing compared to the mythic watering can. And of course, like in other games, this game gets a lot easier to deal with when you start watering more than one crop at a time. It takes way too long to level up tools past level 2 though. You need to use them in front of what they're meant to be used for them to gain any experience this time. So the hot spring won't let you level them up much faster. Well, it's refreshing that the gold tools are the best ones this time. That's less work on my part. Obviously, they'd be even better if they had the mystical powers instead of you being stuck with gold for the best level. I hate that you can only open the toolbox from the front, which is a bit of a pain because it's only 1 square wide, while Magical Melody let you open it from the side. The game doesn't tell you that when you buy accessories, you can't use them as gifts or ship them this time, and instead they get sent to your wardrobe for a character to wear. Also, something awesome is that you can buy some of the accessories at a festival without needing the gems and medals. But it makes me wonder why you can't just buy the accessories without giving her medals. You can buy some of the accessories at the same festival with a minigame that's lame because it forces motion controls. I've read all of the minigames are lame. I like the idea of being able to actually see the jewelry my character's wearing on her, unlike in Story of Seasons. It's dumb that you can't buy all the accessories in the game. Eventually, Mira says your rucksack is full, even though it's not. Why couldn't the game just tell the player that you can only get up to 30 accessories in the first place? You can't buy anything from any shop when your rucksack's full. That's so stupid, especially considering that the accessories and clothes are sent to your wardrobe when you buy them. DS sent stuff to your house if your rucksack was full. And feed and fodder get sent to your coop and barn when you buy them. So why isn't the same kind of magic applied to seeds? This is a rare problem though. And thankfully there's shipping bins all over the overworld as a band-aid for this. Including one just outside the mines, which actually let you store items in them temporarily for this exact kind of situation, which is useful for when you're just about to go mining too. It'd be great if the bins didn't all share the same storage space. It turns out the reason I used to find gift-wrapped presents in the overworld is because of the scavenger hunt. You need a guide to find out the third present is hidden behind a map in Brownie Ranch, because there's plenty of signs there and North Side tells me nothing in a game with a camera like this. My second playthrough had me so busy with that extra farm plot that I never had time to get anything other than the watering can and axe upgraded. But with high enough tool skills, it doesn't matter if your axe and hammer aren't upgraded. I can just drink herbal tea if I need to. I spent most of my time taking care of the crops because it almost never rains in the summer. I went the whole summer without a typhoon too. So Animal Parade made summers a lot worse. This game has typhoons happen in the fall too. Even the weather report on the TV takes 8 seconds to get through. It caused me to ignore it. Even if it wasn't like that, I still wouldn't waste time watching TV because typhoons aren't trapping you in your house in this game, and only get rid of 15% of your crops at worst. It's not intimidating with there obviously being gale force winds. They aren't really scary, but they're a waste of programming. It's weird that the TV only has one measly channel too. Speaking of the weather report, what idiot thought it was a good idea to have the morning weather report be about the weather today instead of tomorrow? You already know what weather it is that day. There's a weather indicator on the screen. You'd only ever want to watch the weather report to find out if there's a typhoon tomorrow. And nobody's gonna want to wait until later in the day to find out there's a typhoon the next day and then reset, because then they'd have to do all that progress again. That's a waste of programming too. You can also get a phone for the weather report, so that's weird. How is anyone supposed to know they should get the phone for that kind of thing and not bother with the TV? It's nice that it can remind you of store hours and let you buy most of the game's seeds in any season. Though I wasn't told the phone would let me do that, and that'd have been nice early on. And it's very stupid that you have to complete Darren's Rainbow to unlock Taylor to buy seeds over the phone. When in Harvest Moon DS, you always bought stuff from stores over the phone from day one. If you wait long enough in the day, it plays other shows, but I only know that because I read it online. I would have never thought to wait until after morning to see if it played other shows because the games never had that happen. In other games, you would have 4 channels any hour of the day for the TV. So this game must have been rushed to have only one. It must have been. Everyone knows about the game freezing Calvin glitch in the mine that required people to unplug their Wii's from it. And I know I have a glitched copy because of the glitchy text in the friendship menu screen. So it'd be completely impossible for me to marry Calvin. I'm not sure how that wasn't fixed in the beta either. Other than that though, it doesn't come off like a glitchy game. Well, actually it is too glitchy because it's possible for an animal to spend all day out grazing surrounded by tall grass and still never eat. That's a very annoying glitch. Especially because when it's too late at night, the game doesn't let you feed your animals. I bet in Magical Melody, animals ate the instant you put them outside. And you didn't have that problem either. But it takes years to find this glitch out because putting animals outside cheers them up, which usually cures any bad mood they'd have gotten from not eating. Besides, you can fix the glitch by just going into the barn or coop. But it took years in game for me to discover that. And in Magical Melody, when animals born on your farm, the morning starts with your character in the coop or barn facing the animal and then you name it. And then there's a black screen of loading sending it back to your house. In this game, while you are told to name it right away, it's from the confines of your home somehow. And then you can progress without a loading screen. It'd only feel natural if instead you were only asked to name it after you went into the coop or barn where it was. Time to get into detail with ranching. Pressing start doesn't instantly get your cursor to the buttons to get past the naming screen. And while default names save time for people who don't care about naming, most people just get their time wasted deleting them instead. And there's only a few rankings for animal products now. It takes hours in-game to hand feed everything in the coop alone. I know I don't have to hand feed them, but it's so much easier to keep track of how many I've fed that way. I really hate that you have to be close to them to see their names pop up now, because they keep moving all over the place, so it's easy to go to the wrong ones. Now it takes too long to talk to your animals. Thankfully, you can ring a bell that's always outside to bring all the animals out to graze, in the field of grass that suddenly appears the second that you buy the coop. You no longer need to worry about wild dogs scaring them at night, but the game doesn't tell you this. Because putting them out to graze is convenient to the point where even the chickens get sent outside with it, I always put them all outside in this game if it's not rainy or snowy. And while the game didn't tell me this, I eventually discovered that pressing A let me skip the cutscene where the animals leave the coop and barn one at a time or enter it. If it was start to skip it, that'd be more intuitive. It's unacceptable that there even is a cutscene of that, because when you send animals out to graze in A Wonderful Life, there isn't a cutscene. Putting animals out to graze is worth it because you save a lot of money on feed and fodder that way. And it takes forever to use the sickle to cut enough grass to have tons of free fodder. What I mean is having to use the sickle a bunch of days in a row would really add up in time. Combine that with the fact that it's so easy to accidentally pick up a chicken and have tons of seconds wasted in the coop, because you pick up a chicken from further away. I felt forced into putting them out to graze because gameplay in the coop is unbearable. I don't think it was play tested with that many chickens at all. The problem with the game not letting you simply walk around carrying animals like in other games is that you can actually get stuck if you're surrounded by animals, which happened to somebody on a forum. Being able to walk through the eggs is good when there's that many chickens, but when the chickens are outside, it just makes it even harder to pick them up, because you have to be so close to them to pick them up. But I do like that when you press A when you're not in front of a chicken or feeding stall, the game doesn't get rid of the feed. When you're holding an item and press A in the wrong place, you'll open a menu asking if you want to put it down or put it away or eat it if you can, the default if it's edible. That's certainly new, and put away should be the default, but at least it keeps you from ditching your item without meaning to. Except for the fact that when your rucksack is full, unlike in Magical Melody, as soon as you put down something, and you wait for a second, it disappears so fast that you won't have time to pick it up again, so you're screwed if you put something down to make room for something else in your rucksack. In Magical Melody, the dropped item shrunk for a longer amount of time to give you a fair chance of picking it up. If it's late enough at night, it's impossible to wake the farm animals and feed them. I'll never have the time to feed a new animal for the day if I go to the animal shop after doing all of the farm work, though that never backfired on me. One day without eating doesn't guarantee sickness, and silkworms only produce once every 4 days. More than enough time to make them happy. Common sense would dictate that you'd still be able to pick a chicken up when she's asleep and she'd wake up. Magical Melody did that. I miss Magical Melody where we just saw the name of the animal in green or gray, instead of a whole box when there's just these little lines that change, while the box itself blocks the scenery. I hate that even though it looks like there's space to put chicken feed in each row in the coop, there's always 2 spots where you can't put feed there for no reason. Walking to chickens will push them away from you, though you don't push them away fast enough for my liking. It takes most of the day just to feed all of my chickens. That removes what made rainy days great. At first I was worried about one of my chickens having a bad mood one morning no matter what I did, because I put her out to graze the previous day, and I know she ate. However, animals get out of the bad mood the instant they get fed, or sent out to graze. I think they're in a bad mood because they get woken up late when the game forces them back inside because you went to bed. Well, the game shouldn't be like that, because every single player is gonna have them out late. If you went back to your farm and put them inside before mining, you wouldn't have nearly as much time to go mining. It's back to doing the stupid magical melody thing where the value of the dairy product is random instead of always fixed depending on the heart level. Like in the earlier good games like Friends of Mineral Town, which actually rewarded all the hard work you put into raising their affection. This game decided to make rankings random for crops too. Unlike in Magical Melody, you can't dye yarn until you upgrade the barn for the second time, when silkworms can be bought earlier than that. I hate the silkworms because you can't put them out to graze, and every time you feed an animal by hand, there's a delay before you get to pick it up or whatever. Unlike in earlier games, so they take forever. It's easy to not know that the dyeing pot's in the barn this time, so it should have been a cooking utensil again. Better yet, they should have told you that they put it in the barn in an unavoidable way. The game doesn't tell you that blue is the most profitable color. It sucks that there is a more profitable color then, that encourages you to just hoard the yarns until you get enough blue herbs or flowers, at which point in the playthrough after the first, you won't need to earn money anymore. Most people would have played the game using any old herbs on hand, and while it's better to earn more money early on, it'd be overkill. And the first half of the year as the most profitable color would be the hardest to get because blue herbs are rare. And you don't want to use up all of your field space on planting flowers, because sadly, they're never as profitable as crops. And somehow they kept the magical melody problem where dyed yarn doesn't have a quality value. As usual, a barn will be an investment for not much in return at first, because you have to wait 28 days for a ranch animal to start giving you products. Every time you try to shear sheep, the game's picky about where you have to be standing to shear them this time, as well as brush any animal. And every time you're done shearing, your character stands there doing nothing for a second. And the game's frame rate stutters, making it look like everything stopped for a bit. Same goes for milking cows, but without the game stopping. That's not Harvest Moon. It's arbitrary that to buy horses and ostriches, you have to upgrade the animal shop by shipping enough animal products, which are less profitable than shipping them cooked. At least it only took me 1 day to upgrade it. Some animal products sell for less after being turned into mayonnaise, like any non-decent duck and ostrich eggs. It's another thing you'd need a guide to know because you're not told what everything sells for. I hate the way the horses and ostriches work in this game. They need more hearts to make you actually move faster than you would on foot. Why can't they be as fast as possible from the get-go anymore? Does it really save me money to save only a couple of 10-minute increments in game by using the horse, when that means always keeping a saddle clogging up your inventory? The game never told me that pressing A and then B makes the horse appear below me, unless I'm standing in the wrong place. I only discovered this by accident in Harvest Moon Animal Parade, so I practically retract this complaint. But it's still a problem because the game doesn't tell everybody about this feature in an unavoidable way. And somehow you still need the saddle in your bag to have the horse appear below you if you whistle. That's lame. As if it isn't bad enough that you have to ride an animal out of the barn and back into it to avoid having his hearts go down from a rainy day. Like you'd know that. I hate that sometimes you actually can't put the saddle in the ostrich because it's in the wrong spot, like near the carpenter's shop. It's also arbitrary that you can't ride the horse everywhere, and you can't ride across rainbows with them. Also, it's weird that you press B to get off the horse, but you get used to it. While it would be weird to have an ostrich and not a horse, I feel like you shouldn't have even had the option to buy a horse, because since the ostrich lays eggs, even if it's only every 4 days, and feels faster than the horse in practice, it's a better choice than the horse. I was told that ostriches are slower. I guess the reason it feels faster than a horse does is because its legs are so much smaller. So since it's smaller than a horse, it looks like it's moving faster when it's going the same distance in the same amount of time. Or the data is just wrong, I don't know. Why can't I get a black horse? Apparently it's random which color you get. I only like that with the animals that I don't have a clear preference for color-wise. I love the idea of having tons of variety in color that way. You can get away with grazing animals in the winter, Somehow the tall grass is still up, so as long as it's not snowing, you can keep grazing them. I'm lucky I decided to do that because I wasn't told it was a good idea. I don't know what the books tell you. I won't doubt that they tell you a bunch of stuff that I thought were god dang it. But most people don't waste a billion years reading all of the books. We want to play the game. I think reading all the books is something you're only going to do after you've done everything. And once again, you can't build more than one coop and barn, so that's dumb and unrealistic. On the bright side, I was happy to learn that in this game your crops still grow if the season changes. It's nice to know that the only penalty is that the crop grows slower. You can keep growing crops in the winter, and like every time they revisit the winter crops idea, they conveniently forget to have blizzards water the crops. Buying the other land plots is a broken way of making tons of money, but it'll make you hate harvesting because you have to mash A so much. So what if there's a shipping bin right beside each plot of land? I'd rather have the basket instead, then I could bring it into the mines. I decided to just plant more trees in most of the extra land plots because it was less effort than all that harvesting. Good thing in the description you're told that more trees have cherries grow from them. This game forces you to remove weeds and little trees from around your saplings, or else they stop growing. I love that the crops from the trees stick around when the seasons change. I like that the first rucksack upgrade is free and doesn't require ingredients for it, while the ones after that require a version of each type of yarn, including the yarn from silkworms and the flax yarn. When for no reason you have to unlock Tailor first and then call Tailor Seeds to buy flax seeds. Or you could just plant enough spring seed mixed seeds and hope that you get flax yarn. It seems needlessly complex compared to Story of Seasons. I hate that you need 2 of each type of yarn, not even just 1 to make each upgrade. And the game is blatant padding because you have 4 upgrades to the rucksack that only increases capacity by 5. And the final upgrade requires a rare shining version of every yarn. On my first playthrough, my silkworm died before I could get a shining yarn from it. And the code on the internet for getting any item doesn't do what it's supposed to, at least for the modded version. It just thinks you're trying to get 99 of the 3rd item you have, no matter how many times you input the code correctly. I double checked and it's the right one. It takes forever to raise the affection of silkworms. I wish I knew on my first playthrough that if I had thought to romance every bachelorette before getting married, Candace would have given me one of the ingredients for the best rucksack upgrade. That would have saved me a lot of trouble. Thank goodness the last rucksack upgrade requires only 1 of each ingredient that time, when it was already being needlessly mean requiring multiple for the others. I'm glad the 3rd upgrade actually doesn't require perfect ranking material like I expected, and instead is almost as easy as the 2nd one. And I'm glad that I can simply buy good yarn at a festival, and it's the same one where I bought the grilled yam from too, so you can actually see the yarn there while you're picking up the other stuff for Darren's Rainbow. I'd still rather be able to just buy the upgrades at a store though, like in the earlier games. Even though an upgrade requires dyed yarn, it doesn't make the rucksack look different, and you're not allowed to choose what your rucksack looks like this way. I can never even see the rucksack on its back. Like that's Harvest Moon. Speaking of customization, the game's way stricter with where you're allowed to place your furniture. That really sucks. It'd be convenient to have the storage furniture right next to the door again. And like Magical Melody, there's a bunch of furniture that's completely useless, like the stove. The reason that Shelly is so high affection in my second playthrough is because there's a glitch where every time you ask her for the rucksack upgrade and choose yes, it raises her affection. I would be happy about this, but I didn't know that when I was befriending everyone, so it's completely useless to me now. By the time you unlock her, you can do other things that earn more money when you do them for long enough than part-time work. So I don't see how using your part-time work is that great for making money. The game has clothing in it finally, but there's no black option when it comes to changing the colors of your house with clothes. so it's not good enough for me. You can't make your house look like a gothic house, just make the interior purple at best. But at least it looks a lot better than what I have to settle for with Animal Parade. The tailor's shop is disappointing. It was clearly rushed because there's barely any clothing options and all of them seem to be shaped the same. Who thought it was a good idea to have the clothes from that shop be really similar to your original outfit? Only the color is different. Why are you only allowed to wear spring and summer outfits in those seasons? And why is that the case for the fall and winter outfits? That's dumb. At least the girl character still looks like a girl wearing hats. I shouldn't have to compliment that, but thanks to Story of Seasons I do. It wastes your time that you have to say you're sure before changing accessories. Good thing that's only a problem in this game. The reason I didn't talk about clothing in depth until now is that you have to unlock Darren's rainbow just to get this stuff.